Alright, what's going on, guys? Today we have a lot to discuss, particularly a conversation about Elden Ring's DLC and the release date of when that's going to be coming out. Because believe it or not, we actually have official information today that clarifies the period when the DLC is going to be coming, although for some people it may be good or bad news. However, now that we have the clarification, we can discuss all the other context that affects it to get a little bit of a clearer understanding of what the future looks like. Because today we got the financial reports for many of the big gaming companies overseas declaring their results for the fiscal year 2023, and the big one that we were waiting on was Kadokawa's. So today we're going to break down absolutely everything within that report pertaining to FromSoftware and Elden Ring, and I think you guys are going to find it very interesting. But with Armored Core 6 on the horizon, I do want to remind y'all that I'm giving away a copy of that game once we get to 100,000 subscribers, and all you got to do to enter is be subscribed to the channel, leave a like on the video, and drop a comment in the comment section down below. But with all that, let's go ahead and get into the information. Let me begin by painting you the picture of what exactly we're looking at here. FromSoftware as a company is owned by three corporations. The first is their primary parent, Kadokawa, who have roughly 69% of the stake in FromSoftware. The other 30% of FromSoftware's stake is owned by Sony and Tencent. And every 3 months in the quarters of the fiscal year, Kadokawa publishes reports for the investors in the corporation, giving them an analysis on how the business performed in the last quarter and how they expect it to perform going forward. And in these reports, we can generally glean a lot of information about what FromSoftware is going to do and how they're being seen from the business standpoint. Now, what we need to keep in mind though is that this information is not geared towards the gaming audience. It's not written for you and me. It's written for the businessmen who want to put their money in the company and expect to get money back out of it. So that's what we need to keep in mind whenever we're looking at some of the language used here, because some of it might sound sketchy at first, but when you think about it from that angle, it's going to make a lot more sense. So let's go ahead and dive into the first page here. The first page outlines the major segments of their business that contribute to overall profits, and here we can see something very interesting. The first line reads, "We achieved the numerical targets laid out in the current midterm plan in the first fiscal year due to the huge success of Elden Ring." So we have a mega corporation like Kadokawa which has so many different subsidiaries that account for all different kinds of media such as anime, manga, publications, books, and TV shows, and their number one source for profit even a year after the game's release was Elden Ring, a game that's only a one-time purchase. That's pretty wild, and so you know that's still catching the investors' eyes. They then say, "We are examining new business objectives under the growth strategy. We plan to announce a new midterm plan when we announce results for the first half of the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. And the second point of that says, "Aiming to stabilize the performance in the game business, where results vary significantly chiefly by extending the life of popular IP and expanding it to mobile games and to achieve growth in the medium to long term." Now, did that say we're getting an Elden Ring mobile game? Probably not. While Elden Ring is the primary game under Kadokawa's umbrella right now, they also have other gaming companies such as Spike Chunsoft and Gacha Gacha Games, which make a lot of mobile games with popular anime IP. So as we read things, when it talks about gaming in general, we also got to keep those in mind, because not everything in here directly refers to just Elden Ring. The second page expands on that first point where it says consolidated financial results for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2023, where net sales were up 15.5% and operating profit was up 40%, achieved record high net sales and operating profit. Thanks to the progress of digitization and the creation of strong IP, high growth continued in our key business including publication, animation, games, and education. The blockbuster title Elden Ring contributed to the results of the entire group. Partly due to the popularity of Japanese IP in the global market, the overseas sales ratio increased to 20.5%. But we can see an interesting metric there at the bottom where it says in quarter 4, January through March, the reactionary decline in sales following the initial release of Elden Ring in the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2022 was absorbed and sales increased as a whole. So basically what that's saying there is that even this far from release, where a natural decline in sales of a single player game would happen, Elden Ring is still the backbone of their income. And again, just thinking about that is crazy. The report then turns to the outlook for the next year, where they say in the forecast for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024, to again expect that reactionary fall in the sales of Elden Ring, but to expect the game segment overall to increase in sales and profit. And the reason for that is down below. The game segment bullet point reads, "The release of Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is planned in August. We will aggressively invest in development of other pipelines as well." And that last sentence there might have sounded interesting, but we'll touch on that more in a minute. Here they give some exact numbers on the gaming segment, where we can see those same points visualized with the numbers, where the business overview of the game segment again highlights Elden Ring, cementing just how insane the success of this game really was. And you can also see another game in their catalog down there at the bottom, bottom that we have to keep in mind when analyzing some of these points. But now we get to the good stuff. Here is the full year forecast for the gaming segment. In the top right, we can see results for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2023 versus the forecast for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. The second bullet point there, from quarter 2 and onward, new titles below are expected to contribute to sales and profit. FromSoftware is planning to release Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon on August 25th, and we expect the fan base to further expand. And then the point down there, medium to long-term direction. We are now developing DLC that will contribute to the enhancement of the Elden Ring franchise. We are pursuing the maximization of profit by prolonging the life of IP. FromSoftware aims to further strengthen its development capabilities by increasing personnel, etc. And additionally, we will strive to expand the scope of our own publishing and increase the opportunities for our media mix. We will reinforce our investment in mobile games that contribute to the maximization of the value of our IP, as well as in books and animations. In the future, we aim to establish a system that can develop 10 pipelines in parallel. So we have a lot to break down there. Number one, there was an interesting point about how they expect Armored Core to further expand the FromSoftware fan base. And that's not very surprising, but I am very interested to see how that's exactly going to play out, considering the difference in game type between the Souls games and Armored Core. And I'd be interested to see exactly what kind of market they're looking at here. But beyond that, what that report just confirmed is that Elden Ring DLC is going to be coming out after Armored Core, which ultimately proves the past leaks that we discussed to be true. And that might be good or bad news depending on how you want to look at it. The section is labeled medium to long-term direction, and it was not placed in the section right above, which describes the fiscal year of 2024. So if we want to take this at face value, what you might initially think that means is that Elden Ring DLC isn't coming out until at least April 2024. But there are a few reasons of why I don't think that's the appropriate conclusion to immediately jump to. Primarily because this report isn't going to have non-public information, and since we don't have a release date for Elden Ring DLC yet, obviously they wouldn't be able to guarantee that it's going to come out in this fiscal year. But the fact that they do mention it in the report at all does at least show to the investors that it's a topic that wants to be considered when investing for the next year. And we also have more context to go along with this. In a recent interview with Eurogamer, when asked about developing Elden Ring DLC and Armored Core 6 at the same time, Yasuhiro Kitao stated that we do develop multiple titles simultaneously. We do have several teams working on different projects. We hope to stagger our releases and bring something new and exciting at hopefully not so long intervals going forward. And that also comes right after we covered the news that it was confirmed that Elden Ring DLC has been in development for over a year already. So while it does quell the potential hope that Elden Ring DLC might arrive before Armored Core, and does tell us that we are going to have to wait a bit longer, even if we do have to wait until the next fiscal year, we can take stock in the fact that this DLC is going to be absolutely huge. Probably close to the size of another game. And I want to pop back to that first page real quick. That second bullet point we covered said they're planning to announce a new midterm plan when we announce results for the first half of the fiscal year, ending March 31st, 2024. So that means by September, we should have an idea of what medium to long term means, since Elden Ring DLC is going to be by far their biggest profit margin, and is listed in that medium to long term plan. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that stings a little bit, knowing that we're likely going to have to wait that long. But at least we know what we're in for is going to be amazing. They do also mention prolonging the life of the IP, and continue to refer to Elden Ring as a franchise, so I do think that at least holds some good stock, that we might get some content for Elden Ring in the meantime before DLC arrives. Now whether that be updates or additional content like the Colosseums, I have no idea, but if we pop over to SteamDB for a second, we can see that Elden Ring has undergone some major updates in the past few days, on the internal side. Now that could definitely be just internal work on the DLC since we know that's in development, but all of the flags that this update hit are telltale signs of an update for additional content being added to the game, like we saw with the Colosseum update, as well as the new ray tracing feature. But again, it could be a false flag and just be internal work on DLC for when that drops. So it'll be worth keeping an eye on, but don't get your hopes up too much. The final thing I want to touch on within the report is to clarify the final line in that game segment forecast, where it says, in the future we aim to establish a system that can develop 10 pipelines in parallel. So that means that between FromSoftware, Spike Chunsoft, and Gacha Gacha Games, they'll have 10 projects underway at the same time. That does not mean that we'll have 10 FromSoftware games in development at the same time, but in context of what Kitao said earlier with the more frequent releases, it does sound like FromSoftware is going to be busy going forward. They've expanded their team significantly in the past year and are continuing to do so, and we know that even back in the day of Dark Souls 3, they were working on 3 games at the same time. So that just makes me think like, man, how much you think they're doing right now? And it confirms that suspicion that I've been trying to tell y'all, that we're probably going to be seeing a major game from them every single year going forward. And that is perfectly okay with me. Anyways though guys, that is going to conclude our analysis of the Kadokawa report, and I want to hear down in the comments section below, are you willing to wait a whole nother year to play Elden Ring DLC? Or are you perfectly content to let them cook in hopes that what we get is going to be borderline another game? Either way though, I hope you found this video informative, and if you did, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you want to be entered into that giveaway. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.